Today I'm going to talk about restringing one of these woven dining room chairs. This one came from South Africa, so they call it a riempie chair. These leather thongs that it was originally threaded with are called riempies. They're just treated leather strips. And you can see this one is starting to deteriorate, so it's time to redo it. Now, I've done a few of these already, so I'll just share with you how I've done it. What I've decided to do, instead of using the original leather thong or riempie, I'm going to use woven cotton rope, about 1 centimeter thick woven cotton rope. This is quite nice because being woven, it's got a little bit of an elastic memory. If you pull it, it comes back again. So that I think will be ideal for this. Now what I normally do when I'm doing a job like this is to photograph it before I undo things so that I know exactly how it was in the beginning. So if I run into any problems, I can refer to my photograph. So I'm going to photograph it from the top and from the bottom and then dismantle the chair. So that's the top. Right, then I'll just turn the chair over onto my work surface. I've covered it with a towel just to stop it from damaging the surface of the chair. And then I'll photograph this side as well. I've got a record of both sides, so I can go ahead and undo things. And just to give you a close-up of what it looks like underneath, you can see here are the damaged thongs, so that's not going to last very long. And what I'm going to do is remove the seat of the chair from the carcass of the chair. It's got these little brackets, 4 of them going all around the side like that. So if I take those off, then this piece will separate from the rest of the chair, and then it's much easier to work with. So let's do that. And whenever I'm working on something, I always have a little plastic tub to put all the bits in, because you don't want to come to the end and find you've lost pieces. Then you're in a world of pain. Right, now the carcass of the chair should separate from the seat of the chair, just like that. So we'll just put that aside. I won't need that until we're ready to reassemble. And now you can see we've got good access to all of these things. The first job is going to be to remove these leather thongs. Now each one you can see has got a little nail holding it down. So I've got to remove those nails. I'll just use a nail remover for that. Then I'll cut these thongs there, and then unthread them, and then we'll have a clean slate to work with. And at the same time as removing the nails, I also make sure that these are separated so that I can unthread them from the other side. So if they're not separated, then I'll just cut them with my nail remover. Right, now it's just a matter of turning it over and unthreading these thongs. If you have any trouble, just use a pair of long nose pliers. It works quite well. Right, and then just a bit of a clean up with a cloth. You don't have to go too crazy, because you're not going to see these white stains that are left behind by the thongs, because your rope's going to cover them. Now the next thing I have to do is to estimate how much rope I'm going to need. So to do that, I'll count the holes: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So each one has a span of 34 meters or round about there. So if I call it 35, times it by 10, say, just because you don't want to be short. It's better to be over than to be short. So 35 times 10 is 350. That's 3.5 meters. Plus we've got little bits here and the thickness of the chair itself. So I'm going to go to 4 meters. That should cover me for all of it. First of all, I've got to string this way, and then I'll finish that one off. Then I'll cut a new piece of rope, and then I'll string this way. And when I string this way, I'll do the weaving side of it, which I'll show you when we get there. So first of all, we've got to cut the rope, and then what I'll also do is put some insulation tape around the end of the rope so that you can thread it through here. Otherwise the rope is too thick and too floppy to get through there. So I'll put some insulation tape around there, pull it tight so that it's quite thin, and maybe cut this fur off at the end and put a taper there, and then that should thread quite easily then. So if we just take this and we just cut there and there, and then I'll put it in the vise, pull it like that, and then tape it with insulation tape. Here's the little trick I use to put a bit of tension on it so that if I pull it, it gets narrower and then it'll thread easier. And then I just get a bit of insulation tape, put it around like that, keeping a bit of tension. You notice I'm starting furthest from the point and going forward because I don't want these bits of tape to catch when I'm going through the hole. So that's pretty good up to there, and then I'll just undo it and finish off. And then we just cut the tape off, and there we have it, a nice stiff end to thread through. Right, now to get down to the nitty-gritty, I've cut my 4 meters of rope, and the one end I've taped up so that I can thread it. The other end is just as it was, and on this end I'm going to tie just a simple knot and make it really tight. It works out because I'm using a rope that's nearly the same thickness as these holes. If I put a knot in like that, that will stop it from pulling through. Starting from the undersurface, I take my rope, I put it through, my threader works well, and then I have to pull it right through until that knot engages. There we go, the knot's engaged. Now I have to flip it over like that, and then go through the opposite hole like that. Pull it tight again. There's our first one. Flick it over again. Get it as tight as you can, but right at the end what I do is pull it tight all the way along, and I usually get about another inch or so of rope before I tie it off. So now we pull through like that. Okay. And we flip it over again. This side's very simple. You just pull through like this, just making sure that you keep each one as tight as possible. Flick it over, then go sideways again for one loop. So all your sideways loops will be on the underside. Just make sure that's the case, so that on the top, like this, it looks neat. It just spans straight across without any, and you don't see the knot that you made or anything like that. So you always start on the undersurface. getting there, and thankfully I haven't cut my rope too short, because if you run out, then you can't do what I'm doing and do the full span without a join. Right, this is our last one on this particular side. I'll pull it through like that. Now, what I have to do is do another knot like this one at the end here. And that can be a little bit tricky, but what I always do first is just make sure that my rope is taut. So I'll start here, pull it tight as I can, and then pull it along a bit, and then pull it there. See, I'm getting a little bit of slack, so I'm just taking up all that slack before I tie off. Otherwise it's going to get floppy very soon with sitting on it. See how much slack I've got there now. And you have to do this at the end. You can't get it right all the way along, unfortunately. Right, that's pretty taut now. Now I've just got to tie my final knot. Pull it tight as you can. It's just a simple knot. You just go around and through. Keep the tension this way on that last little bit of rope. Then move your knot down as far as you can and close it up slowly, keeping it right down on the wood itself. And then when you get to the end, just tease it down like that, and that should work. So there's our final knot. So now it's just a matter of cutting the end off. Do that. Right, now it gets interesting. I've cut my second bit of rope, so this one is going to be thread in the opposite direction. I've tied my little knot on the end there, so let's do the first loop now. Right, remember to pull that knot up tight, then we flip it over, and now comes the tricky bit. We've got to weave this, so you can just go over, under, or you can go under, over. Your first one doesn't matter, but your second one does, because you've got to then do the opposite when you start doing your second one. And so we go over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, and then the last one is over again, so that's fine. We'll just pull that through. There we go, and then just try and get it quite straight. You might have to just adjust it a bit like that. Right, then we go through the other one. Right, pull that as tight as you can, and then we'll just flick it over. Then just as before, we go sideways, one hole, get it nice and tight, flick it over. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky. You see I went over on my first one there, so now I've got to go under on my first one, and then it's just each time you just alternate whether you start over or under, and that's, once you've got that right, then things become simple. Now you can see over, under, and similarly all the way along. Right, finally the last one. over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, and then over on the last one, thread it through. It's the same as the previous side now. There we go. Pull up, and then we've got to do our final knot, same as last time. All threaded. Now we just have to reassemble the chair, the reverse order of what we did before. We'll place the seat upside down, then take the chair, turn it upside down, like that. Make sure your knots don't interfere with the wood going all the way down. So that looks good now. Right, there's the final product. Turned out well. The rope makes a good replacement for those leather thongs, and it's very comfortable because, as I said, it's got a little bit of stretch and an elastic memory, so it springs back again, so that's all good. Now, if you found this useful, please like and share this video and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. And if you have any comments or questions, we'd love to hear from you. Just scroll right down to the bottom and you'll find the comments section there. Thank you very much for watching.